Grace and peace, and welcome to the Wisdom Became First Sip and Chat. I am your host and spiritual advisor, Jen Delaz. We are going to sit down and get right to our video. If you have never been here before, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because you're already family if God has brought this to you. If you are a returning family member, hey family, you already know what to do. Grab your cup, cheers it up, and let's get started on today's lesson. So we're going to get into a topic that is very important and relevant nowadays, and that is spiritual numbness, which is a state of being emotionally and spiritually desensitized, normally characterized by a lack of sensitivity, a lack of empathy, disconnection from your innermost self, others, as well as God. Now, why is all of this important? It's important because you need to understand that without these characteristics, you have no guidance system as to where you are actually going in life. You are allowing life to just take you. And not only is it taking you, but you find yourself caught in the idea that you'll find fulfillment in things that are external to you. So you never really truly get to learn who you are. And as you're on that trip to not learning yourself, you almost waste all of your time here while in Earth School. So the correction needs to be made, and needs to be made as soon as possible. Now, spiritual numbness can arise from a whole bunch of factors. Most relevant, traumas, neglecting spiritual practices, societal conditioning, and worst of all, the relentless pursuit of external goals at the expense of our innermost fulfillment. Have you ever noticed how joyous and happy children under the age of 5 really live? Now, granted, they don't have to worry about bills, they don't have to worry about a paycheck, or any of the things their parents have to worry about, but they find their joy in such small things. And that's the type of life that we were made to live. When we are tethered to the fact that materials are what brings us joy, the disillusionment that titles is what's going to bring us joy, you now have tethered yourself to those things so deeply, and you're intertwined to the point that when you don't have them, it causes things like depression. It causes your insensitivity to the world. Even us being locked into things like social media and the news. What happens with those things is when you see those depictions of violence and the stories of what's going on around the world, and none of it is based on positivity, it does something to you mentally and emotionally. You are very much desensitized because when you see someone regularly getting robbed, what happens is you start thinking being robbed is normal. And you're working your hardest to prevent that instead of us figuring out a way to correct the fact that someone needed to rob someone because they didn't have. So the desensitization actually stops us from looking for the solutions to the problems and just has us focus on the problems as if that is entertainment. Now, I'll touch briefly on finding the joy within. Now, I know a lot of people would say, no, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to have a Ferrari, 3 cars. I want a 5-bedroom mansion. Now, I'm going to pose a bit of perspective. If those things could truly bring you joy, why is it that we still see people who are rich, who have everything that money could possibly buy, still wanting to end their lives? It is because in order to keep all of those things, it creates a mental state of depression and anxiety. You now have to fight to keep it. Everything within you is designated for you to try to keep that thing going. It destroys your connections because you never know if they're genuine. Does the person love me for my money, or do they love me for who I am? You know, as far as your materials, is someone trying to take it from me? I have to work even harder to keep it. I want to maintain my status. All those just create more stress within you. A lot of times, you see the people who live the simplest lives, those are the ones who live the happiest lives. So spiritual awakeness is way more important than being spiritually numb, because once you're stuck in that mental state of numbness, you no longer know what joy truly is, because it's now superficial. It's based on what the world tells you it's based on. Like I said, right now you want a Ferrari. If Ferraris went out of style and you had 6 of them, you wouldn't want your Ferrari anymore. you'd want something different, it's because society told you what you should want, instead of you actually looking within and finding out what you want. Maybe you didn't want a Ferrari. Maybe you wanted to help build one, just to say that you were able to contribute to that. That'd be amazing. But instead, you're hunting for the next biggest thing, and then trying to figure out a way to keep it going for the rest of your life, and still not finding fulfillment, still not figuring out who you truly are and what it means to be you. Because if the only thing that it means to be you is to be the Ferrari guy, it's not too hard of a title to obtain. Alright, so we'll just go into a few cons of having spiritual numbness. The first would be stagnation and complacency. Once you have the things that you feel you want, you no longer need to work on yourself. Or at least you think that those things make you, so you allow those to be attributes to your personality, when really it has nothing to do with who you really are. With connections, like I said, you also start having diminished connections because you start lacking authentic connections. You don't know whether or not the people around you truly care about you. You don't even know what that looks like for the most part. You'll keep people around who have no meaning to your life, who probably don't even care about you, but it's because you feel valued by just having the numbers. We see this daily. Social media has now made it a thing to have people follow you. When back in the day, when someone was following you who you didn't know, it was considered stalking. Now, we welcome the stalking. It's online. Come follow me. Now, when you don't build a connection with that person, they're just following you. They just want to see what you're doing. It's not a connection. It doesn't mean that you have something strong and solid there. And of course, your connection to God is disrupted with spiritual numbness. When you don't know you, you can't know God. It is important to know yourself, because God only knows you through your heart. If you don't know your own heart, there's no way you can get to know God. So making sure that you work on your spiritual development is very important. When I hit you with some pros, it makes so much more sense. Things like those connections start serving you. You know the people who are around you. People of substance only want to be around you in those times. When it comes to, the things that you're able to build and grow through, your growth is astronomical when you work on your spirituality, because you start seeing things from a very positive lens. Instead of looking at everything that you lose and everything that happens to you and living in that depressive woe is me state, you start looking at it from a perspective of, what did you gain? What did you learn? How can you take this lesson and can you help somebody else with it? So internally, you begin to grow. It's almost as if it is a trade-off, that the more you have inside, maybe the less you'll have outside, but you'll be more you. Versus the latter, which is the more you have externally, you don't have yourself. You have to trade that off in some sort of sense. Okay, so I wrote down a couple of scriptures for you just to back everything that I'm pushing. So I got Psalm 51:10, which says, "Create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me." Touching right on the fact that the spirit and the heart are of purity. These are the areas within the human nature that need addressing more than anything. Like I said, God knows your heart. He doesn't know your possessions. He doesn't know your bank account. He knows your heart. That is how he knows where your purity is. So when you dig deep and you really start to learn who you are and cultivate a heart and righteous spirit, you can now build that relationship with God, and it'll be a solid one. I also have Romans 12:2. "Do not conform to the patterns of the world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, the good and pleasing and perfect will of God." Another beautiful scripture speaking to your need to cultivate spirit over possessions, to not get trapped into what the world is trying to tell you to want. That is exactly what the enemy has been working on all this time. He's built a system that makes you focus on what your eyes can see instead of what your heart desires. And when you begin to really dig deep, you start thinking that it's your heart that desires those things, and it's really not. All you're desiring is status. You're desiring, for others to see you in a light because it makes you feel better. But in all actuality, those feelings are not even real. They don't really give you validation. So working on the spirit is what is going to help you cultivate an understanding of yourself and a connection to who you truly are. So, in conclusion, spiritual numbness is one of the most deadliest, I want to say, dysfunctions of the world. When you are numb to your own spirit, you are living in a shell. You don't truly know who you are. And in order to really be able to develop on this spiritual journey, you need to learn yourself. Being here in Earth School is about self-discovery. It's about understanding what you stand for. And through that understanding, through your deeds, through the will of God, and allowing Him to take control and take you where He needs to take you, you truly develop that strong and solid understanding of yourself. And that actually draws in the people who are more like you. So no, you won't have people who like your memes just because they thought it was funny. You have people who resonate with the fact that what you said touched their heart deep, that you made them feel like they're like you. And that's what we're trying to build. Communities of people who are like-minded. Not like-focused, like-minded. I'm gonna leave this one right here. Whoever's phone's gonna reach you, alright? Thank you so much for watching my content. Go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe, please, oh please, and feel free to share. I enjoy you all. Thank you so much for your time. Love and light. Peace.